Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Scott Cheney, and I'm the CEO of an organization called Credential. It's good to be with you all today. Pleased to be invited to join you here at the Promise Networks gathering. I'll explain in a little bit what Credential Engine is and why I've been invited today, but wanted to just start with the topic of our conversation today, which is building skills in and out of the workforce, and really coming back to some of the concept about the Promise Network, in general, and that is to support people in their college and career success. And as I was thinking about this today, I was thinking about the idea of college and career and the reality that more and more people are having experiences that are college and career and college and work and time off and training and upskilling and career and maybe a little more college, but some on the job learning and a mixture of all of these experiences, all of these stops and starts and on ramps and off ramps. And the reality is that that's the way that our economy is. That's the way that our lives are now. It's both frustrating and sometimes enjoyable because we get to start new things over and over. And that's the way it's been for lots of people throughout much of our history, just not for everybody. And it's happening more and more now to everybody. And the reality is that that means that we're all having to reskill and upskill, sometimes de-skill, as we go through these experiences and as we have our jobs and our career, both in their fluid and stable times, but oftentimes as we're having to pick up some pieces and restart. We think about this as a little bit the new normal and non traditional. As I said, it's been that way for forever for a large percent of our working population. And we've had a really difficult time helping that population, now everybody, be able to navigate through this vastly changing marketplace. It's not that way, though, with a lot of the other parts of the world that we live in now. You can think about how we shop. You can think about how we pick a movie to go see. You can think about how we travel. So if you think about any normal year when we're traveling and we might need to just go across town to see friends, or we want to get on a flight and go across country and visit some family, or just go to a conference or to a concert someplace. We have in our hands tools that let us both pick all of those tickets and decide where to stay that's closest to the venue that we want to be at, closest to our family. We have an app that lets us drive the easiest and fastest direction from our home to the airport. We know if the airline has been delayed, we know if it's been canceled, we know when the next one is, we know if we're going to be able to make our connection flight. We know if that's going to get us in time to have to get a late check in or an early check in, if we're going to miss our dinner reservation or not. And we can adjust all of that in real time just from our phone by making sure that we have all that information coming into us and that we're able to have options, pathways, selections in order to adjust as need be. We're working now to make sure that that's happening in the world of education and training and jobs and careers, because you're going to constantly have to be reskilling and picking. Do I go to a boot camp? Does the training that my company offers get me what I need? Do I need to go back to college for a while? Should I get online and take an online class or two? And will those really help me fill the gaps that I have in my education and career pathway to get that next best job that I want? Or has that job changed enough that what I thought I was going to go get really not fill the need that I thought it was going to fill, and I need to readjust as I go? We don't have tools like that right now. We don't have the ability to sort and match, to pick and choose, to evaluate between all of these offerings and to be able to make the best decisions. And it is true that we are making these decisions all the time. We just don't always think about them in the same way. We don't have a chance to catalog them, to categorize them, to capture them and share them, to see them all in one place, like we do an itinerary if we're going across country. And we need to. It's getting more and more confusing out there. The world of skills and credentials is not what it used to be. We have now more than 900,000 unique credentials in the United States alone. And when I say credentials, I mean everything that's intended to help you, to help all learners, to help employers navigate what kind of skills and capabilities we have. So it's everything from a high school diploma, licenses and certificates and certifications and badges and boot camps and apprenticeships and degrees of all types and levels. So bachelor's and 2-year associate degrees and master's and professional degrees. More than 900,000 of those. And when a worker, a learner, somebody who's been laid off has to go make a decision about which of those from the thousands of providers that are in this country, when they have to decide which of those are the best way to go spend their money and to make a decision about which one is really going to meet their need, they don't have an easy way to make that decision. Like I said, 900,000 unique credentials, hundreds of thousands of competency frameworks. So those things that tell us what do you need to know for particular occupations. I want to be a mechanic or a lawyer or an accountant or a welder. All the things that I need to know to do those particular occupations. There's hundreds of thousands of unique skills and abilities, countless pathways to navigate through all of those, depending on where you live, how much you can afford, what's available to you, what the jobs are in your area, countless pathways to navigate your way through to the job you want. And then multiple inconsistent and incomplete ways to share what you've learned already and to have that transfer into meaning for the next educator or the next employer so they can really understand the best of what you have. So the work that we do here at Credential Engine is to make sure that all that data about credentials and competencies and pathways and transfer value is what we call transparent, that it's as easily used both on the web and in modern tools and in written materials as it is to get all the information you need about that trip across country and the restaurant you want to see and the concert and the fun you want to have when you're getting to Phoenix or Miami or Portland. So the work that we do is to make sure all of that data is accessible. And as part of that work, what we need to have happen so that people can more easily get the skills and the competencies and the credentials they need is we need to have all of the learning gains, no matter whether you're getting it on an online program, in a 6-week boot camp, in a 2-hour skills upgrade, in a 2-year degree program, in a licensing program, all of that has to be captured and documented and shared in ways that the person who's earned them can take with them and build on and give to the next employer so that the next employer or the next educator understands what you've gotten and what makes sense of it, how you make sense of it in order to be able to advance your career and your education as smoothly as possible. So we need to be able to capture all of that. We need to be able to then share it with the individuals who've earned it so that they have control over what they give to their next opportunity. We need to make sure too that all of that we've learned is actually being recognized and made available for transfer into the next opportunity. So it's not just that you can share it, but that what you've learned has value to the next opportunity, to the next educator or employer, so that they're actually giving you the credit for it. Not necessarily college credit as we think about it, but they give you the credit of what you know and can do based on what you've already done. Not that you've just taken it and it's now dead to everybody, that it's no longer able to be recognized and built against where you're trying to move to. So we've got to have documentation. We've got to have the ability to have that information shared with the learner. We have to be able to have the learner be able to then share it with their next employer or educator. We have to make sure that everything that people learn is able to be transferred, that we can signal what it's worth to the next step in your pathway. And we have to make sure that we actually have the ability for people to take all that information and place it into the pathway that they're on or that they want to be on. So again, let's go back to the travel analogy. If you're in the car and you're driving to the airport and all of a sudden there's an accident a mile ahead of you, you don't want to miss your flight. You need to find another alternative route around that accident. There may be two or three, and you need to be able to choose which one works best for you. When you get to the airport, you need to know from the signals in the airport and what's on your phone where the best parking spot is. If you didn't reserve one, there's one over in the garage on the third floor. It's down that lane. Once you get into the airport, you need to know that the airline's on time, and you need to be able to make an adjustment if your plans change and if the airline's no longer there. Same idea with education and careers. You need to be able to have that information about what you have and where you want to go, and what's the reality of the roads and the paths that are in front of you and how they change. Because as we all know, from this COVID time, things change pretty quickly and they change pretty dramatically. So all of those are some of the imperatives that we have to have built in to help people as they're actually realizing the need to get new skills, whether it's on the job, in an educational setting, in order to be able to adjust to where they're going. Now, I told you I'd let you know a little bit about what we do and how we do it. So these next few slides are just going to give you that picture. So Credential Engine, we're a nonprofit organization. We believe that all of this information about all credentials and competencies and skills and pathways is public information. It needs to be out in the public domain so that anyone can have access to it, so that everyone, anytime, anywhere, can get the information they need to make the best decision about which credential, which competency, which skill, which provider is going to help them make the next best step in order to advance their career. We do this with a large community of organizations that believe in the value of this. We are an open source, Creative Commons licensed organization, so everything we do is out there for the public good. So it's all done through partnerships. We're a US-based organization, but we work internationally as well, because all this information needs to be able to flow across country lines. As people move, companies move, opportunity moves, and it's just as likely that you could be taking an online course from an international provider as it is that you're going to be taking one from down the street. We work with a lot of states. We work with a lot of governments. We work with a lot of providers. So this movement is now taking place in 19 states. By the time you see this, the number may have gone up. We're growing pretty quickly. And those states are actually adopting these approaches to having all of this data be public and comparable so that we can be building the kind of tools that are the Expedia for credentials, the Travelocity for credentials, the Amazon of credentials, that lets you be able to get the information you need and make those decisions and make those comparisons right there on your phone. We're working a lot too with partners around policy to make sure that we have states not just doing this work, but they're actually making sure that it's built into the way they do their work. So we have a partnership with a number of organizations, National Governors Association, Conference of State Legislators, higher ed executives in the states, and others who are working with us to make sure that this data will be public for the benefit of learners and workers and educators and employers, really anytime they need it, so that it's a state policy that this is how we're supporting our economy, we're supporting our citizens to have this data be public. We would love to figure out a way to work with you all more closely. We are available for conversation about the best way to support your strategies, your programs in the Promise Network, to work with K-12 and educators in the post-secondary space. So let us know how best to be able to meet your needs, and we look forward to talking to you in the near future. Thanks again very much for inviting me. You all have a good day.